Hi guys, today I just thought I would do a little get ready with me because I see them floating around and a story time as well. And as the title suggests, this story is going to be about my work life and about why I will never work in management again unless I am working for myself. So as you can see, I have nothing on my face. I just have washed my face with Lush's Ultra Blend, and yes, this is what I look like. So I'm going to put my foundation on, and my foundation at the moment I'm using is the Maybelline Fit Me, and I've just gone up to 120 because I was using 115, but I've got a bit of a suntan because it's summer. So yes, I'm not using a primer today because I don't really use primers unless I'm going out and I plan on getting like hot and sweaty. So yeah, I'm just using this, and I'm so happy. This used to be in a pumpy bottle. Is it in a pumpy bottle? Yeah, I think it was. And now it's in a squeezy tube. And I love squeezy tubes because you get so much more out of it. So I'm going to use the Real Techniques. What's this one? I think this is the buffer. Where does it say it? Oh, there it is. Buffing brush. So, on with the story. It was April 2015, and at the time I was working at the Museum of East Anglian Life in the Stone Market in Suffolk, and it was a great museum. I loved working there. This video is definitely not about them because they're amazing, but if you know heritage in, well, I think it must be around the world, I don't know, but especially in the UK, it's a very transient lifestyle, and it's really hard to get a permanent full-time position. So it makes it really hard to stay in one place and to keep your job, basically. So I was working a 12-month contract, and my contract came to an end. Luckily, the museum decided they wanted to keep me on in a different position, which was part-time and seasonal, so not ideal, but definitely something I could have to keep the money coming in whilst I was searching for a full-time job. I also had two other jobs at the time. One of them I still have, which is at the pub, and the other one was at my friend's vintage shop. So that was lovely. But 2 months into that job, no, 2 months, 2 weeks into that job, I got offered an interview, and it was going into a sector that I had worked in before, as have most young people, which was retail, but it was a step up into management. So I thought, yeah, I can do that. I'd done some management work whilst at the museum. I'd sort of done supervisory roles in other jobs before. So I thought, yeah, I can do that, that's great. And obviously the pay is going to be better. I was working at minimum wage, which at the time was £6.50, I think. So, you know, management, they tend to get paid a bit better. So I went to the interview. It was for assistant manager, and I really impressed them, and I got offered the job. So I handed in my notice, and I started at the shop on the 5th of May 2015. I remember that because it was my sister's birthday. And oh, I've been like debating whether or not to keep them anonymous, but I don't think I will. It was Whittard, and if anyone in the UK knows Whittard, it's sort of like they sell tea and coffee basically, but it's not a cafe, it's tea and coffee that you can take home. And it has a lot of selection and a lot of variety of price. It is the higher end of the market, so they like to think, but actually it's not. But I will come on to that in another segment. So yes, so I've buffed in my foundation, nice and proper. I love doing this. This is like my favourite thing to do. Anyway, so I started, and they said that they were looking for a management a manager as well. And so I had 2 weeks with the then manager who trained me up to be the assistant manager. That's all well and good, that's fine, that was my position. Now, this is where the lies start. So I was told in my interview that I would be paid £7.30 an hour. I got my first paycheck and it turned out that I was being paid £6.80 an hour. So I was doing a management position on 30p more than minimum wage. And it was a 32-hour contract, and really that doesn't justify the work that I was doing, and especially doesn't justify the work after the manager left. So, onto my concealer. Concealer today, I am using LA Girl Pro Concealer. I didn't know that you could get this in the UK, but you can actually order it on eBay and they send it to Argos. So it's pretty reputable. So, the old manager left and I was getting kind of stressed at this point because I was thrown in on very low wages to do a job that I hadn't signed up for. And I was getting promises and promises and promises from head office that a new manager would be on the way. And this never ever happened. And so I was doing this job for every month. It was saying, oh, my manager's coming, we're going to do interviews. They never did any interviews. And then my area manager, this is another fault, my area manager, you'd think would live in the area. He lived in Cardiff. I live in Ipswich, okay? So that is literally the other side of the country. I can't explain this to Americans or Australians because like our country is really small, but it's like if you had state areas, let's say, and your state was Wyoming and your area manager lived in Texas, okay? It was that sort of problem that I was having. So he had to deal with the manager interviews. So he had to come to my store on the other side of the country every time he wanted to do interviews. So you can imagine that wasn't very frequent. In fact, he only came to my store twice. And so this went on, and I was being paid very, very little. In fact, illegally little, I found out, because they were not doing my taxes correctly. So I was getting taxed way, way, way too heavily. In the UK, if Americans don't know, our employers do our taxes, not ourselves. So this was becoming a bit of a problem. I'm just going to let that settle in. So I was getting my paycheck and I was being paid very, very little. But the whole interview thing was becoming a real problem because I was severely understaffed. So I was working pretty much every day, and I would have to also go to my second job, which I kept on because I was supposed to only do 32 hours. So I was doing 32 hours by contract, but actually I was doing 40, 42, 44 hours. But because when the manager magically appeared, I was going to drop down to 32. I wanted to keep this other job going. So the interviews would happen and the area manager would be like, yeah, I've chosen one, that's great. And the head office would say no. They're not good enough. Now, this is where I come on to the whole thinking that they're better than they are. Now, Ipswich is a little town. It is the county town of Suffolk, but it is a small town and it is quite a poor town. For the area we live in, it's quite poor. And I'd have people coming in and they'd be like, why is your tea so expensive? I mean, a packet of everyday tea bags which you buy in Asda, Morrison's, Tesco's for £1 were £4.50. There was teas, everyday plain loose leaf teas, they had selling in grams of 100 grams, selling in bags of 100 grams that were more than my hourly rate. And I just think that's really wrong. So there is that problem. They have a very high opinion of themselves, which I don't think is warranted. So they were trying to find this manager that would be fabulous, and it just wasn't necessary. They just needed someone, and I needed someone, and my staff needed someone there now, doing that job, taking the pressure off me, taking the pressure off my staff. I had to train up 17, 18-year-olds how to open the store, how to close the store, how to do reports. I mean, this is stuff that only management is supposed to be doing, and these guys were being paid less than I was. So that's where some of the problems were heading. Now, if you have seen my other videos, you'll know that I suffer with my mental health, as do a lot of people in this day and age. Sorry, excuse me. And I was really starting to suffer. I was burning myself out. I was also going through a relationship breakdown at the time, which wasn't the best time of my life, and I just didn't need this extra stress. And I think, I don't know if she saved me or if she pushed me over the edge, but one of my sales assistants, who I will keep anonymous, basically was writing this report on me, and this was pages long. I'm talking 7, 8, 9 pages long, of how shit I was, basically, and she made me read it. And there was one occasion that really stuck out into my head, that we got broken into the shop, okay? Now, as I said before, my area manager was in Cardiff, so I had to deal with this all on my own. And it happened to be that I was late into work that day. I woke up late, no fault of my, well, it was my fault. My alarm didn't go off, basically, and I was exhausted. I was exhausted. So I phoned this sales assistant, because she lived nearest town, and I said, I'm really sorry, but have you got your keys? Could you go and open the shop for me? I will be there as quickly as possible. It takes me about 20 minutes to walk into work, so I got dressed really quickly, and because of my mental health, my appearance is something that I pride myself in. I find it really hard. I know I just appeared on camera with no makeup on, but I find it really hard to go out in public without makeup on, okay? That's part of my anxiety. I already think I'm getting stared at. I don't want to get stared at because I do have makeup on. That's my head. So I put some makeup on, and I got to the shop, and she phoned me, nearly said her name then, she phoned me and she said, we've been broken into. The glass, we had a big glass front, and the door was glass as well, and she said, the door's been kicked through, there's glass everywhere. I phoned the police, they're coming, where are you? And I was literally walking down the high street this time, so I started running. And she got there, and she was really surprised at my appearance, that I had put makeup on. But anyway, this came up in the report, and she basically thought that I had something to do with the break-in, and yeah. So she read me this report, and she said, I'm going to take this to head office and to area management if you don't improve yourself. It happened to be, I'm just going to start on my eyeshadow, so this is the Revolution Salted Caramel palette. It's like supposed to be a Too Faced dupe. So she made me read this report, and it was horrible, and I cried a lot. And basically it sent me over the edge, and that's why I went to the doctor's surgery and got my appointment. But it happened to be that the next day, or the next couple of days, there was the area meeting for managers, which I went to because I was still acting as manager then, not being paid for it, but still acting as manager. And I went and I spoke to my nearest other manager, who was in Braintree, which is in Essex. So there's only one store usually per county. I spoke to her and I just said, this is what's happening at my store. I don't really know what to do about it. Should I tell the area manager and all of this? And she said, no, don't do it. She used to come down to my store and help me sometimes. She was like, I'll have a word. Because she obviously has not that much respect for you. So that happened. And I was supposed to talk to my area manager about how I was feeling at that time, and I just didn't. And so the next day after that I went to the doctors and I got signed off for 2 weeks because of my pretty much breakdown that I'd had. I'd actually considered suicide that weekend, so yeah, it was a really dark time in my life. So I got signed off and I thought that's great. I read up on it. My mum's best friend works with people that get signed off as well, so I gave her a message and I said, you know, what will happen about my pay and all of that shebang. And she said, no, you'll still get paid at least statutory sick pay, and then it should be in your contract that you get paid, you know, a certain amount, whether it's full or half or whatever, you will get paid, so don't worry about that, because I live alone and it's really, I have to rely on myself. So I thought, okay, that's all right. So that sort of eased my mind a little bit. Now, I came back off my sick leave, and it was about this time last year actually. And so this all happened really, really quickly. I mean, this was in less than 2 months I was signed off. The 2.5 months I was signed off work with stress and anxiety and depression. So I came back and immediately started looking for another job. And this is where my best friend Laura comes into it, because she was hiring for a news shop for Costa, who I work for now. And she said, come for an interview and we will fit you in somehow, so I could get out, because she could see that I was having this breakdown and I wasn't in a good place, so she kind of saved me. So I went back and I got that job and I phoned up my area manager and I said, bye, I'm leaving now. And I gave him 2 weeks notice and I was gone. And I left the 3rd week of August. And it was so relieving to just say to that place, so I thought. So I think payday used to be like the 25th of the month or something like that. So I got my pay, and it was £400. £400 for a full month's work at £6.80. Plus I had holiday pay rolled over because I'd earned so much holiday pay for the extra hours that I was working. I should have had about 30 hours holiday. So I was looking at about £1,150, £1,200 before tax. I opened up my paycheck and it had what they had taken out, and they had taken out all of my sick pay that I'd already been given, paid to, including statutory sick pay. Now, this company had already caused me so many health issues, and it was because of them that I had been signed off in the first place. I just couldn't believe that then they took away my sick pay. And I just was in so much shock. So I phoned my mum's friend again and I said, this is what's happened, what can I do? And she said, email them and put in every single person that you have in your address book tied to that company. And do your own maths, so you work out what you should have been paid, work out your tax, work out your sick pay. This is what statutory sick pay is, so include that. So I did. And I had 2 responses out of about 10 people that I tagged into this company. This company supposedly cares for their employees. And I remember just putting all my, this email was about, oh my god, 1,000 words long, and I just ranted, and it was all really relevant things. I mean, stuff like pricing your tea higher than your staff. We got a massive heat wave last summer and my shop got up to nearly 40 degrees. That is illegal. And the only thing they cared about is the chocolate melting. Not the fact that I just sent a staff member home because she fainted. And then it was also about my money. They had effectively stolen £700 of my money. And then they gave me this absolute bullshit back, PR did, about, no, it's not PR, HR gave me this absolute bullshit back about why they had stolen it. And it was the fact that I was still on probation, even though I'd been signed off sick the day my probation ended. Probation was 2 or 3 months, I can't remember. So, yeah, I managed to get some of it back, but not £700. I think I got about half of that back. Now, I did some maths about what I need a month to live on, and this is before food, this is before going out, before socialising, before, you know, having any form of life. I need at least £660. And they had left me, well, when I first got paid I didn't even have enough to pay my rent. And then when I got that extra £350 back, they had left me with less than £100 to feed myself for a month. And it just wasn't what I needed, and I was just so thankful that I still had my other second job, so that was giving me about £40 a week, I think it was at that time, which majorly helped. And I was also so thankful that I was just out of there and that I was now a Costa. But going into the whole story title of this video, I will never work in management again because of that. This is like a personal experience for me. I'm not saying don't go and be management in retail, or don't go and be don't, you know, if that's what you want to do, then go and do it, but I personally wouldn't do it again because I don't like the fact that they were so controlling and over the stupid things like caring more about the products and caring, you know, not actually listening to any feedback that I gave them. I literally sent them the same report for about a month because I knew they would never read it. I don't like, you know, you're management, but you're not, because you always have someone controlling. Okay, so it stopped recording because I rambled on so long. It was like 25 minutes long and my camera stopped recording then. So I was just gabbling on to nothing. So yeah, in conclusion, I'm really happy with where I am now. I am working towards a supervisory role, but yeah, I will never work for management, especially in retail again, because it's just so much pressure to please someone for so little. I mean, if my pay was better, I might have stuck at it, because I wouldn't have had the other stress of not being able to afford things, like not being able to afford to go home and see my parents, or to pay my rent, or just to have a life. I didn't have a life anyway because I was working every single weekend, so I was also getting very lonely. But I would work in management as long as I was managing myself. So my dream is to have my own business. I would love to own my own coffee shop / bar, because that would be my responsibility. And if it will be stressful, but it's my stress. I don't have someone else like leering over me saying, do this paperwork, do that, that's not right, like that. I'll get to call the shots. And that's what I learned from that, I suppose. So yeah, I'm so thankful to get that rant off my shoulders, because it's been a year now pretty much, and I've been wanting to make this video, a video along these lines for so long, because I just want to highlight the corruption, moral corruption that goes on in retail management in the UK, probably around the world, I don't know. But yeah, so sorry that this video was so long, but I just really had to get it out, and I just want the world to know what goes on in Wittard, basically. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Bye.